Good morning. It's so good to be with you. You know, I offered no more remarks. All the remarks I had to offer, I offered last week, and I put my remarks in the bulletin. So if you weren't able to be here or missed the Mass, please feel free to read the remarks. Again, it's so good to be with you this week. You know, there's a part of me as I reflect on the gospel that really misses roadmaps. I miss roadmaps. You know, I know that GPS represents an important advancement in technology and travel, but I have to say, my relationship with GPS isn't always effective, and it's not always productive. Whether it's a weak signal or a horrible connection or incorrect settings, sometimes they can complicate the trip rather than make the trip easier. And what about when you fail to follow the instructions of the GPS voice? Right? They program the voice to say, recalculating, with such a tone of condescension. I mean, it might as well just say, you know, what part of make the next right don't you understand, you dumb human? And while I know that GPS has been an advancement in travel, it has, in fact, become a crutch for us. I mean, I find myself using Google Maps when I'm going to Bagel Supreme just right around the corner. Man, I miss using maps. I was in the military for some time, so we're very, very familiar with using maps. But at the same time, I have to be honest, maps aren't the easiest thing to use either. You have to unfold them, and they have the small lettering that you need a magnifying glass to see all the details. Well, I think from our gospel we can gather that God isn't a fan of either maps or GPS. He's more like your mother, who sits in the back seat and tells you where you need to go and which turn you need to make, while at the same time telling you to watch out for that car that's approaching or the person that's crossing the road. You know, while God isn't a fan of maps or GPS, He is a fan, however, of sending ordinary people into the world to prepare God's way. He loves to send us into the world to send God's message, to be His presence. And yes, you and I are part of a group of ordinary people, like the apostles, whom He sends out. You may be saying, okay, Father David, I get it. Let's for a second just pretend that God is sending me, that He's inviting me to go on mission, that He has some sort of plan for me in my life, that I have some sort of role to play in this great drama in our world. Okay, well, where do I go from here? Each of us are at different points in our lives, so where do we go? How do we go forward? Well, consider how detailed the instructions were Jesus offers in our gospel. And it's really interesting, right? In the gospel today, this is what Jesus says. He says, He instructs them to take nothing for the journey but a walking stick. No food, no sack, no money in their belts. They were, however, to wear a pair of sandals, but they couldn't take a second tunic. He said to them, wherever you enter a house, stay there until you leave. Whatever place does not welcome you or listen to you, leave there, shake the dust off your feet in testimony against them. Now, I don't mean to criticize the Lord, but it's interesting how in this list of detail after detail, instruction and prescription after prescription, He misses and He doesn't include probably the most important detail of all. He doesn't tell His disciples where to go. He tells them what they'll need. He tells them that they need to go 2 by 2, but He never says where they are to go. How are they supposed to figure that out? I mean, how are we supposed to figure it out? Where's our roadmap and GPS? Well, it seems like an important question, and it's something that's certainly a question that relates to our lives and how we are to move forward in our relationship with the Lord. If we are in fact being sent into the world, which we are. So if you're wondering, where am I being sent? Where does the Lord want me to go in this point in my life? Well, I think that we already possess an important piece of that puzzle. That in us, there is already a clue as to what our destination is. And I think it's this: follow your wound. Follow your wound. Follow the part of you that is hurt, incomplete, wanting. Because I think that's where the Lord wants to send us forth. And by the way, not only to heal others and to save others, but also in doing that, and by His grace, we do the same for ourselves. That's just how clever the Lord is. Friends, He sends the walking wounded, if you will, knowing that their healing lies ahead in a life shared with others. You know, I'll admit that this is a spiritual reality that is hard to believe, especially considering the world in which we live. I mean, it's normal to suspect that mission should be rooted in our strengths and not our weaknesses, right? Oftentimes we say, I don't know what I should do or where I should go. Take, for example, a parish, how I should be involved. Well, maybe it should be my strengths. That should be what guides me in my mission in life. Well, today I offer you a different perspective. Look in your wounds. I mean, Jesus Himself, He told us, He says, those who are well don't need a physician, but the sick do. I didn't come for the righteous, but sinners. You see, those who rely on their own strengths for ministry and service, oftentimes there's that temptation to judge, right? Like, I got it all figured out. I know what my strengths are, and that person over there, they have no clue. Or they don't know, or they're not good enough. It's easy to judge, to look down upon those whom we see as weak or ill-equipped. That's why Jesus did something so important when He sent them out without a specific destination. He wanted them to be exposed to their weaknesses, to allow their weaknesses, which were going to be on full display, to be their source of inspiration, to be their focus. So friends, what does this mean, to let your weakness lead you in life? Well, here are some examples. Let's say you recognize that you know nothing about what it means to be poor. And you correctly suspect that you're wrong in thinking that the poor are poor simply because of their faults and failings. Well, maybe that's your wound. Now go out and serve the poor. Follow your wound. How about this? You're lonely. You feel that the world has forgotten you. Think of someone you have almost forgotten. Go see them. Give them a call. Follow your wound. I mean, you can't seem to stop pacing back and forth. Your life is so hectic, one thing after another. Well, maybe you need to slow down, take time, and sit in silence for a little bit. Whether it's in a church, in home, or in the park. You know, it's interesting, Mother Teresa would often say that God speaks in the silence of our hearts. Follow your wound. Do you need more silence? You know, if someone has hurt you profoundly, think about them. Yeah, maybe you need to keep your distance, yet hold them up in prayer. Maybe you need to make the first move in reconciling. Well, not because it's owed to them, but because you recognize that that's a part of being sent, part of going on mission. So friends, the truth is that God isn't a fan of GPS and maps. He doesn't answer all of our questions, nor explain what will befall us on our journey. Maybe because He wants us to be led by our wounds. He simply indicates the direction of travel in our wounds. So often in life that happens. And it means following our woundedness into and out into the world. That's where we find healing for ourselves, but also for those on the journey with us. So brothers and sisters in Christ, one other thing. You know, at the end of Mass, we hear the priest or the deacon, he dismisses the congregation with these words. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. or go forth, the Mass has ended, or go and announce the gospel of the Lord. The consistent theme is go. Go. What is being emphasized is mission. A mission that each of us has been given by God, a God who sends us. So this week, where will you go? Where will you go? I hope you follow your wound.